Malik was an 11-year-old boy who lived in a small neighborhood with his grandmother. His grandmother always told him, "Kindness is the most important thing you can share with the world." Malik believed in her words and tried to follow them every day. He wasn't the richest kid in school, but that didn't bother him. Malik's family didn't have a lot of money, but they had love and a strong sense of community. Every morning, his grandmother would pack his lunch with care. Sometimes it was just a peanut butter sandwich, an apple, and a small carton of milk, but Malik loved it because it was made with love. At school, Malik was known for being cheerful and friendly. He loved playing soccer during recess and always helped his classmates when they needed it. Everyone liked Malik, even the teachers. One sunny morning, something unusual happened in Malik's class. A new boy walked in with the teacher. The boy's name was Ethan. He looked nervous and didn't say much. He was wearing clothes that looked a little worn out, and his eyes were tired, like he hadn't slept well. The teacher smiled at the class and said, "This is Ethan. He's new here, so I hope you all will make him feel welcome." The class greeted Ethan with a mix of excitement and curiosity. But Ethan didn't smile back. Instead, he quietly walked to an empty seat in the back of the room. Malik watched him for a moment and thought, "He looks like he could use a friend." As the day went on, Malik noticed that Ethan kept to himself. He didn't talk to anyone during recess or answer questions in class. At lunchtime, while everyone else opened their lunchboxes and began eating, Ethan just sat there staring at the table. Malik couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Malik thought for a moment. He didn't have a lot of food, but he knew he had enough to share. His grandmother always said, "Even if you have little, you can still give something to others." He picked up his lunch and walked over to Ethan's table. "Hi, I'm Malik," he said with a big smile. "Do you want to eat lunch with me?" Ethan looked up, surprised. For a second, he didn't say anything. Then he softly replied, "I don't have any lunch." "That's okay," Malik said, sitting down next to him. "I have plenty. Here, you can have half of my sandwich and some of my apple." Ethan hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Of course," Malik said, handing him half of the sandwich. "Friends share, right?" Ethan took the sandwich and smiled a little. "Thanks," he said. It was the first time Malik had seen him smile all day. As they ate together, Malik started talking about soccer and the funny things that happened at school. Ethan began to relax and even laughed at one of Malik's jokes. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel so alone. Malik didn't realize it then, but that small act of kindness was about to change everything for both of them. The next day, Malik arrived at school with his usual bright energy. He greeted his classmates and teachers with his signature smile. As he unpacked his books, he noticed Ethan quietly slipping into the classroom and taking the same seat in the back. Ethan still looked nervous, like he didn't quite belong. Malik remembered how shy Ethan had been during lunch the day before. He decided to check on him again. At recess, while other kids ran around playing tag and soccer, Malik saw Ethan sitting alone on a bench near the playground. Ethan was staring at the ground, fiddling with the strap of his backpack. Malik grabbed a soccer ball and jogged over. "Hey, Ethan," Malik called out. Ethan looked up, startled. "Want to play soccer with us?" Ethan hesitated. "I don't know how to play," he said quietly. "That's okay," Malik replied. "I'll teach you. It's easy, and it's fun. Come on." Malik's enthusiasm was hard to resist. Ethan slowly stood up and followed him to the field. Malik introduced him to a few of the other boys playing soccer. "This is Ethan. He's new, so let's show him how we play," Malik said. The other boys nodded and smiled. They passed the ball to Ethan, letting him practice kicking it. At first, Ethan was clumsy, missing the ball a couple of times. But Malik cheered him on. "You're doing great," he said. Soon, Ethan was laughing and running alongside the others. His kicks weren't perfect, but he was trying, and that made Malik smile. For the first time, Ethan felt like he was part of something. After recess, Malik and Ethan returned to the classroom. Ethan sat down at his usual spot, but this time, he didn't look so tense. Malik noticed and felt happy to see Ethan beginning to open up. When lunchtime came, Malik looked over at Ethan's table again. Just like the day before, Ethan didn't have a lunchbox. Malik's heart sank. He didn't understand why Ethan didn't bring food, but he didn't want to embarrass him by asking in front of everyone. Instead, Malik walked over with his lunchbox. "Hey, Ethan," he said, "want to sit together again?" Ethan nodded, a small smile forming on his face. Malik opened his lunchbox and split his sandwich in half, just like he did the day before. This time, he also gave Ethan one of his cookies. "Here, take this too. My grandma makes the best cookies," Malik said proudly. Ethan took the cookie and nodded. "Thank you," he said, his voice soft but sincere. As they ate, Ethan opened up a little more. He told Malik that his family had just moved to the neighborhood because his dad had lost his job. "It's been hard," Ethan admitted, looking down at his hands. Malik listened carefully. He didn't know what it felt like to struggle like that, but he wanted to help in any way he could. "Don't worry," Malik said with a reassuring smile. "You have a friend now. We'll figure things out." Ethan's smile grew a little wider. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel so alone. The next few days were much the same. Malik would share his lunch with Ethan, and the two boys would sit together, talking and laughing. Ethan was starting to open up more, and Malik enjoyed having him as a friend. One day, Malik noticed something different about Ethan. His clothes looked even more worn out than usual, and he seemed quieter than before. He wasn't laughing at Malik's jokes as much. Malik could tell that something was bothering him. During lunch, as they sat together, Malik decided to ask, "Ethan, are you okay? You seem kind of sad today." Ethan looked down at the half-eaten sandwich in his hands. "It's just, things are really hard at home," he said softly. Malik waited patiently, giving Ethan time to speak. After a moment, Ethan continued, "My dad is still looking for a job, and my mom is trying her best, but we don't have enough money for food or other things. That's why I don't bring lunch to school. There's just not enough to go around." Malik felt a lump in his throat. He didn't know how to solve Ethan's problems, but he wanted to make him feel better. "Ethan," Malik said, "you don't have to worry about lunch. As long as we're friends, we'll always share. Okay." Ethan looked up at Malik, his eyes full of gratitude. "Thank you, Malik," he said. "You're a really good friend." Malik grinned. That's what friends are for. The rest of the lunch break passed in a more cheerful mood. Malik told Ethan about his grandmother and how she always said, "Even if you have little, you can still share." Ethan nodded, clearly touched by the words. The next day, Malik decided to do something special. Before leaving for school, he told his grandmother about Ethan. He didn't share all the details, just that Ethan didn't have enough food at home and that he wanted to help. His grandmother smiled and packed a little extra in Malik's lunchbox, a second sandwich and an extra cookie. At lunchtime, Malik placed the second sandwich in front of Ethan. "Here, this is for you," he said with a big smile. Ethan's eyes widened. "You brought this just for me?" "Yup. My grandma made it. She said it's always good to help friends," Malik replied. Ethan took the sandwich and started eating. For the first time, Malik noticed how quickly Ethan ate, as though he hadn't had enough to eat in a long time. It made Malik feel both sad and determined to help even more. After they finished eating, Ethan looked at Malik and said, "You're the nicest person I've ever met. I don't know how to thank you." Malik shrugged. "You don't have to thank me. Just promise me one thing." "What's that?" Ethan asked. "When you can, be kind to someone else. That's all I ask," Malik said. Ethan nodded firmly. "I promise." What Malik didn't know was that his small act of kindness was already creating a ripple effect that would change both their lives in ways he couldn't imagine. As the days turned into weeks, Malik and Ethan grew closer. They sat together during lunch, played soccer at recess, and teamed up for class projects. Ethan's shy nature began to fade, and he started smiling and laughing more. Malik's kindness had made a big difference in Ethan's life. One Friday, the teacher announced that the class would have a show-and-tell activity. "Bring something special from home to share with the class," she said. Malik was excited, but he noticed Ethan's worried expression. After class, Malik asked, "What's wrong?" "I don't have anything to bring for show and tell," Ethan admitted. "We don't have much at home." Malik thought for a moment. "That's okay," he said. "You don't need something fancy. You can share a story or something that's important to you. I'll help you think of something." Ethan smiled. "Thanks, Malik. You always know how to make things better." That weekend, Malik spent time thinking about how he could help Ethan feel more confident during show and tell. On Monday morning, as they walked to class together, Malik asked, "Did you decide what to share?" Ethan nodded. "I'm going to talk about my family. We don't have much, but my parents always remind me that we're strong because we stick together." Malik beamed. "That's perfect. Everyone will love hearing about your family." During show and tell, Ethan stood in front of the class, his hands shaking a little. But as he began to speak, he found his voice. He talked about his parents, how hard they worked, and how much they loved him. By the time he finished, the class was clapping, and Ethan's cheeks turned pink with pride. Afterward, Ethan whispered to Malik, "Thanks for encouraging me. I don't think I could have done it without you." "You did great," Malik replied. "I'm proud of you." Later that week, Ethan surprised Malik during lunch. Instead of waiting for Malik to share his food, Ethan pulled out a small piece of bread wrapped in paper. "It's not much," Ethan said, "but my mom said I should bring something to share with you today." Malik's eyes lit up. "That's awesome. Thank you, Ethan." They shared the bread, laughing and joking as usual. To Malik, it wasn't about how much they had. It was about the friendship they had built. But even as Ethan seemed happier, Malik couldn't stop thinking about his friend's struggles. He wondered if there was a way to help Ethan's family beyond just sharing his lunch. One evening, Malik told his grandmother about Ethan again, explaining how much he wanted to do more. His grandmother listened carefully and said, "Sometimes, helping someone isn't about fixing everything. It's about showing them they're not alone." Malik nodded, understanding her words. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was about to happen, something that would change Ethan's life forever. It was a chilly morning when Malik noticed something unusual about Ethan. He seemed quieter than usual, his shoulders slumped, and his eyes downcast. During recess, while the other kids ran off to play, Malik found Ethan sitting on their favorite bench, staring at the ground. "Ethan, what's wrong?" Malik asked gently, sitting beside him. Ethan hesitated, his fingers nervously playing with the hem of his jacket. Finally, he said, "My dad's still looking for a job. Things are getting harder at home. My mom's worried about how we'll pay the bills and buy food." Malik's heart sank. He had known Ethan was struggling, but hearing it in such simple, honest words made it feel even heavier. "I'm so sorry, Ethan," Malik said. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Ethan shook his head. "You're already helping. Just being my friend means a lot. And sharing your lunch, it's one of the nicest things anyone's ever done for me." Malik smiled softly. "That's what friends are for. And don't worry, Ethan. Things will get better. I know it." Ethan nodded, though he still looked uncertain. That evening, Malik couldn't stop thinking about Ethan's words. As he helped his grandmother prepare dinner, he told her about Ethan's family and how they were struggling. His grandmother listened carefully, her hands pausing as she chopped vegetables. "Malik," she said, "sometimes when people are in tough situations, they don't just need food or money. They need someone to remind them that they're not forgotten. Your kindness is already making a big difference for Ethan. But I want to do more, Malik said, his voice filled with determination. His grandmother thought for a moment. Well, she said, kindness has a way of spreading. Maybe your actions will inspire others to help too. Malik nodded, her words giving him hope. The next day at school, Malik decided to talk to his teacher, Miss Carter. She was kind and always encouraged her students to care for one another. After class, Malik approached her and said, Miss Carter, can I tell you something? Of course, Malik, she replied, smiling warmly. Malik told her about Ethan, how he didn't have enough food at home, how his family was struggling, and how Malik had been sharing his lunch. Miss Carter listened intently, her expression growing serious. Malik, she said after a moment, what you're doing for Ethan is wonderful. You're showing him that he's not alone, and that's so important. I'll see if there's a way we can help his family. Malik felt a wave of relief. Thank you, Miss Carter, he said. That night, Malik went to bed feeling hopeful. He didn't know what Miss Carter would do, but he trusted her. Deep down, he believed that everything would work out. The next morning, something unexpected happened. When Ethan arrived at school, he wasn't alone. He walked into the classroom with a tall man carrying a bag. The man introduced himself as Dr. Harris, and what he said next left the entire class, especially Malik, speechless. The classroom buzzed with curiosity as Ethan walked in with the tall man. The man's warm smile and confident demeanor immediately caught everyone's attention. He carried a leather bag in one hand and rested the other gently on Ethan's shoulder. Miss Carter greeted them with a welcoming smile. Good morning, Ethan. Who's this? Ethan looked up at the man and then at the class. This is Dr. Harris, he said shyly. Dr. Harris stepped forward and nodded politely. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Harris, and I'm here today because of a very special young man, your classmate, Malik. The entire class turned to look at Malik, who blinked in surprise. Me? He asked, pointing to himself. Dr. Harris chuckled. Yes, Malik. Ethan told me about your kindness, how you shared your lunch with him, and made him feel welcome when he needed a friend the most. Your actions touched my heart. Malik felt his cheeks grow warm. He wasn't used to being in the spotlight. I just wanted to help, he said quietly. Dr. Harris smiled. And you did more than that, Malik. You inspired others, including me. The class leaned forward, eager to hear more. Dr. Harris explained that he was a family friend of Ethan's parents. He worked at a local clinic and had been helping Ethan's family in small ways whenever he could. But after hearing Ethan talk about Malik, Dr. Harris realized it was time to do more. I spoke with Ethan's parents, Dr. Harris continued, and we came up with a plan to help. Thanks to Malik's kindness, I've reached out to some of my friends and colleagues. Together, we're organizing a program to support families in need in our community. The classroom erupted in applause, and Malik stared at Dr. Harris in amazement. He had never imagined that his simple act of sharing lunch would lead to something so big. Dr. Harris turned to Ethan. And you, young man, have shown great courage by sharing your story. You've reminded us all that it's okay to ask for help when times are tough. Ethan smiled, a mix of pride and gratitude on his face. He glanced at Malik and whispered, Thank you. After the applause died down, Dr. Harris said, I also have something special for you, Malik. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small, neatly wrapped package. This is a thank you gift from Ethan's family and me. It's just a small token of appreciation for your big heart. Malik hesitated but accepted the gift. Inside was a beautifully crafted journal with the words, Kindness changes everything, embossed on the cover. Malik traced the letters with his fingers, feeling a sense of pride and joy. As the day went on, the classroom felt different. Malik's classmates began talking about ways they could help others, inspired by his story. Even the teacher joined in, suggesting a school-wide food drive to support families like Ethan's. Malik felt a warmth in his chest. He realized that his grandmother was right. Kindness had a way of spreading. But deep down, Malik knew this was just the beginning. The next morning, the school was buzzing with excitement. After hearing Dr. Harris's story about Malik and Ethan, Ms. Carter had announced a new project for the class, a kindness campaign. Everyone can make a difference, Ms. Carter said. Just like Malik did, we're going to work together to support families in our community. The class erupted into chatter. Ideas were flying around. Bake sales, clothing drives, and even making cards for kids in need. Malik looked around and felt a sense of pride. He never imagined his simple gesture of sharing lunch would lead to something so big. At recess, a group of classmates approached Malik. "You're so cool, Malik," said Sam, one of the boys who played soccer with them. "Yeah," added Mia. "I want to help too. Maybe we can collect canned food for people who need it." Malik smiled. "That's a great idea. Let's talk to Miss Carter and see if we can set it up." The group of kids spent the rest of the recess brainstorming. By the end of the day, they had a list of projects they wanted to try. Miss Carter was thrilled. She promised to help them organize their first event, a food drive for families like Ethan's. Meanwhile, Ethan seemed to walk a little taller. He wasn't the shy and nervous boy who sat alone anymore. He was part of the group, laughing and sharing ideas like everyone else. Malik noticed the change and felt proud. His friend was finally beginning to shine. At home that evening, Malik told his grandmother everything that had happened. She clapped her hands together, her face lighting up with joy. "Malik, you've started something wonderful. See, kindness truly spreads." "But it wasn't just me, Grandma," Malik said. Ethan was brave enough to share his story, and Dr. Harris helped a lot too. His grandmother nodded. "That's how it works, my boy. One person lights a spark, and soon, everyone's carrying the flame." The next day, the food drive began. Posters were hung in the hallways, decorated with colorful drawings and encouraging words like "Together, we can help." Malik and Ethan stood near the donation box during lunch, thanking students who brought in cans of food, rice, and other supplies. By the end of the week, the donation box was overflowing. Malik and Ethan helped Ms. Carter sort the items into bags to deliver to families in need. Ethan's eyes glistened as he watched the bags pile up. "I can't believe so many people care," he said quietly. "They do," Malik said. "Sometimes people just need a reminder." "You reminded them, Ethan." When the first delivery was made to Ethan's home, his parents were overwhelmed. Ethan's mother hugged Malik tightly, her voice trembling. "You've done more for us than you'll ever know," she said. Malik smiled shyly. "I just wanted to help my friend." That night, Malik lay in bed, staring at the journal Dr. Harris had given him. He opened it to the first page and wrote, "Kindness is like a tiny seed. You plant it, and it grows into something beautiful." He smiled, knowing this was only the beginning of what they could achieve together. The success of the food drive brought a new energy to the school. Students who had never talked to each other before were now working together. Ms. Carter praised the class for their teamwork, saying, "This is what kindness can do. It brings people together." Malik and Ethan were especially proud. Every day, more donations poured in, not just from students but also from teachers and even parents who had heard about the campaign. The small donation box in the classroom was replaced with a larger one in the school lobby, and soon that was filled too. One afternoon, as Malik and Ethan were helping Miss Carter sort through the latest batch of donations, the principal walked in. "I've been hearing wonderful things about your kindness campaign," she said, smiling warmly. "I think it's time we involve the entire school." The principal suggested organizing a school-wide kindness week. Each day would have a theme, like Sharing Day, Helping Hands, or Gratitude Day. There would be activities to teach students about compassion and how small acts of kindness could make a big difference. Malik's eyes lit up at the idea. "That sounds amazing." he said. Ethan nodded. Yeah, it would be great to get even more people involved. When Kindness Week began, the school was transformed. Colorful banners hung in the hallways with messages like, "Be the reason someone smiles today," and "Kindness is contagious." Each classroom participated in challenges, such as writing thank you notes, donating to the food drive, or helping a classmate. On Gratitude Day, Ethan stood up during morning assembly to share his story. "A few weeks ago, I felt invisible," he said, his voice steady but emotional. "I didn't think anyone cared about me or my family. But then Malik showed me kindness. He shared his lunch with me, and that small act changed everything. It made me believe things could get better." The audience listened in silence, many students wiping away tears. Ethan continued, "Now, I see that kindness is everywhere. It's in every donation, every smile, and every helping hand. Thank you all for showing me that I'm not alone." When Ethan finished, the entire assembly erupted in applause. Malik clapped the loudest, beaming with pride for his friend. As the week went on, the kindness campaign spread beyond the school. Local businesses heard about the students' efforts and began contributing. A grocery store donated fresh produce, while a bakery sent loaves of bread for families in need. The kindness ripple was growing bigger than anyone had imagined. Dr. Harris visited the school again to see the progress. He was amazed by what the students had accomplished. "You've all shown that even the smallest acts of kindness can lead to something extraordinary," he said during another assembly. By the end of Kindness Week, the school had collected enough food and supplies to help dozens of families. Malik and Ethan helped pack the items into bags and deliver them to a local community center. As they worked side by side, Ethan said, "I still can't believe all of this started with you sharing your lunch." Malik smiled. "It wasn't just me, Ethan. It was all of us, working together." Ethan nodded, his eyes shining with gratitude. "You're right, but I'll never forget who started it." As Kindness Week came to an end, Malik felt proud of everything they had accomplished. But what made him even more proud was the change he saw in Ethan. The shy, quiet boy who had once struggled with feeling left out was now a confident leader in the school's kindness movement. Malik and Ethan were invited to speak at the next school assembly, where they shared their story. Ethan stood beside Malik, looking out at all the students. "I never knew that something as small as sharing lunch could make such a big difference," he said, his voice strong. "But now, I understand that even the smallest act of kindness can create a ripple that spreads through everyone." The whole school applauded, and Malik felt a deep sense of happiness. He realized that kindness wasn't just something to do once. It was a way of life, something they could all carry with them every day. After the assembly, Dr. Harris spoke to the class again. "What you've all shown is that kindness doesn't just change lives, it builds communities. And you've all built a stronger, kinder community here at school." Malik looked around at his classmates. He could see that they were all inspired to continue the kindness movement. The projects they had started, food drives, helping hands, and even just offering a smile to someone who needed it, were not just temporary. They were lasting changes that would ripple through the community for years to come. At home, Malik shared the news with his grandmother. She had heard all about the success of Kindness Week and was overjoyed. "I knew you were going to do something special, Malik. You have such a big heart, and you've shown the world how powerful kindness can be." One evening, as they sat together at the dinner table, Malik took out his journal. He had been writing in it every day, inspired by the words Dr. Harris had shared with him. He opened to the last page and wrote, "Kindness is the bridge that connects us all. No matter where we come from or what we have, kindness is something we can all give." As he finished writing, Malik smiled. He knew that this story wasn't over. The kindness that had started with a simple lunch shared between two friends would continue to grow, changing lives one small act at a time. Ethan had found hope, and Malik had learned that one small action could spark something much bigger than he ever imagined. It was proof that, no matter how young you are or what you have, Your kindness could change the world. And as they walked home together that day, Malik and Ethan talked about their plans for the future, about how they could keep spreading kindness and helping others. Because in the end, kindness was the one thing that could always make the world a little bit better.